Welcome once again to Global Reports here on Liberty Television. We are broadcasting across Nigeria on channel 180 on the Star Times network, also on GoTV channel 1110, and on Strong Decoder multi-TV across Nigeria and across West Africa. Also in Jos on Free TV channel 775. You can also watch us on the internet on libertytvradio.com. Today, as usual, we look at the reports which have featured in the world's news from the past 1 week. I'm joined in the studio today by my good friend Ferdinand Okonkwo. Welcome to the studio, Ferdinand, once again.
Thank you, Mr. Toy. Happy New Year.
Thank you. First of all, we'd like to take a look at the global newspaper review. Monday's Jerusalem Post carries a front-page article titled U.S. Lawmaker Tours Potential Embassy Sites in Jerusalem, in which Congressman Ron DeSantis, who is visiting Israel and inspecting possible sites for the controversial relocation of the United States Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The New York Times of 6th of March carries a front-page article that is titled FBI Chief Pushes for Justice Department to Refute Trump, referring to President Donald Trump's unsubstantiated claim that former President Barack Obama ordered phone hacking of Donald Trump's phone during the presidential election last year. On Monday, the independent newspaper from UK reports on its front page about Sunday's London March for Women, held on International Women's Day, stating that Donald Trump's attack on women has brought women issues to the fore. Women's activist and singer Annie Lennox stated that Trump has actually helped the women's movement. Today's Gulf news from the United Arab Emirates carries a front-page article about the USA exclusion of Iraq from the list of 6 Islamic-majority countries that President Donald Trump has included in his latest 90-day ban. In his executive orders scaling back his previous ban on Iraq and permanent US residents. US Secretary of Justice Jeff Sessions is quoted as saying that 3 of these nations are state sponsors of terrorism, referring to Iran, Sudan and Syria, while the others are safe havens for terrorists. Last week's USA Today carries an article and a photograph titled Arizona Lawman Stares Down Wall, where a Mexican-born lawman, Tony Estrada, who has been a US citizen since he left Mexico aged 1, looks across at the fence that divides Mexico from the USA. The 73-year-old sheriff stated, "Do you think a wall is going to stop the migrants? It's just another obstacle, and it might be the easiest." And that's all from Global Reports newspaper review for this week. Well, that's our global newspaper review for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Now, the first item we're looking at is the recent xenophobia in South Africa against foreign workers, including foreigners, including Nigerians. Let's watch this report from the South African Broadcasting Service News Television.
Police in Nigeria are reportedly guarding officers of the mobile phone giant MTN in the capital Abuja. This after protesters tried to storm the offices yesterday in response to the xenophobic attacks in South Africa. And more South African businesses are reportedly being targeted in Nigeria. Protesters also gathering at the offices of MultiChoice. Nigeria has summoned South Africa's top diplomat to register the fears about a fresh wave of violence against illegal immigrants in Johannesburg and Pretoria. Well, contrary to what the Home Affairs Minister has said, the Forum for the African Diaspora believes that the recent violent protests that have taken place in Rosettenville and Pretoria are targeting foreign nationals and are xenophobic. ADF has called on the South African government to intervene, and with what's been called the March Against Immigrants in Pretoria this morning, the Forum has raised concerns about immigrant safety and has called for the South African government to do something. Earlier we spoke to Emeka Johnson, the Forum spokesperson.
The way he said it is justified, but that's not the way he said it. We'll have a clip of what he said which is contrary to what you said just now. If he said that, Amnesty International would have indicted him, ADF wouldn't have indicted him, and AU wouldn't have indicted him. Even the Minister of Home Affairs disagreed with him. A cross-section of people all over. In fact, I think it's only Mashaba that has that idea that criminality in Johannesburg has to do with foreign migrants.
Now, we've seen that the communities here in Rosettenville, they went after foreign nationals who they say were dealing in drugs and also running brothels, prostitution brothels and rings. Now, if indeed that is the case, even what's happening in Pretoria, what is your message to those who obviously are not towing the line?
Actually, well, that's not the case in the first place. We're on the ground, and we found out that that's the case. The case here is actually an outright attack, xenophobic attack on people. And we're not saying that there are no miscreants or criminals among the migrants, but they're infinitesimal. How many migrants are in South Africa in the first place? And look at the statistics. How many of these people have been convicted and arrested and convicted? That's where you get your statistics. They are there. But I mean, but South African government has the necessary institutions and they can activate to nail these people and let the laws of the land take position.
What's your reaction to what's currently happening in Pretoria with the illegal march or the march against illegal immigrants in Pretoria?
Well, that march has been planned over time. We tried to intervene by meeting the Mamelodi Residents Association, but they agreed initially. We wanted to meet them under the umbrella of the Mamelodi Police Station, but at the last minute they reneged. We wanted to know their concern and see how we can come in to add value to their concern. We are not saying they don't have concern, but we are saying that mob action is not the solution. You see, even if they do citizen arrest, it's legal. Do citizen arrest. If you see any person committing crime, but our own grudge is that criminality does not have nationality. If you're a criminal, you're a criminal. And the laws of the land should take position.
Yes.
Yeah, that's our agreement. But you see, the fears now is that this thing will snowball. We said, we started shouting and crying since Mashaba's statement last year. We picketed against Mashaba. We wrote an extensive memorandum, which we circulated even to the presidency. We escalated it to the presidency and even to the parliament, the premier. But we are not listening to. We try to inform, we try to interdict this march, but it will look as an affront against our host community. But who had expected South African well-meaning organizations to have interdicted this? Because what is actually happening, the news on the ground now is that even schools are closing, calling parents to come and take their words. And the fears that this thing will escalate to the extent touching some areas like Hebrew, Berea, Yeovil, in no time today.
Now, yesterday, the Home Affairs Minister dismissed reports that the latest incidents are xenophobic. And on the other hand, you believe, though, that they are. What makes you think that they are? This
has been a problem with we and South African government. The inability to take the fact that this is xenophobic. Right from the King's Willetini statement, we've been looking at it as xenophobic. The Interministerial Committee or the Parliamentary Committee on that issue, we met them. We presented our memorandum, telling them that they try to deny it. Which, I mean, this is denialism. It doesn't work well. Ask the common man on the street. Even the protesters themselves have called it xenophobia.
Yeah, these events in South Africa are very unfortunate, and they're a repeat of the events which happened, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago.
A year ago, 2015.
And it's 2015, and it's a tragedy that Africans should be fighting each other. and treating each other like in this way. What do you think, Ferdinand?
Mr. Atto, is quite unfortunate that such a thing will be happening on African soil, generated by Africans themselves. But the truth must be told. No sane human being looking at the situation will not agree with you that this is lack of governance. Zuma have been associated with this issue for some time now. Jacob Zuma. When he was president of ANC, I think it was around 2013, when there was the same xenophobic attack. Of course, we will call it xenophobic, but from every ramification, you could say that this is Afrophobic. Because when it is xenophobic, it doesn't dissociate anybody from the attack. But in this case, they are just attacking African brothers. These are people who never knew the sacrifices made by the citizens of the same countries. Some of us were surcharged in school just to fight apartheid in South Africa. And this is the result we are getting as a payback.
Do you think there's any justification in some of the claims that South Africans have against...
There is no country anywhere in the world that is not having the same experience that they are having. They have miscreants. There are problems of immigrants who are coming in, having no place to stay, just trying to, find a space within the society. And South Africa is not an exception. But in this case, you could see that the government is just having this, it's as if a subtle support for what is going on. You remember, Helen Zille, who was the former leader of DA, the Democratic Alliance, the real opposition and main opposition in South Africa, accused Zuma at the time of Thabo Mbeki's government that Zuma was the actual promoter and originator of this violence against Africans. Because then the woman said, and supported by their leader in the parliament, that is Sandra Botha, they claimed that Zuma promised the youths in ANC party as at that time that we will have to deal, he will find a way of dealing with these immigrants in South Africa. Because they were claiming that these people can and claim their jobs. In a competitive market, do you have anything like claiming job? You are the one that is hiring and firing. You hire who will give you the service. Do you think if I am not ready to give you the service, you look elsewhere and pick the people that will give you service. What is the competition about?
What do you think the Nigerian government has a role to play in this issue, or have they played their role fully?
Nigerian government have been playing roles, but in this matter, I still believe they have a lot to do. Our initial handling of this matter, I think, allowed it to degenerate to the point where we are now. I ask you, Otto, can any American citizen be molested or killed in any country without getting the subsequent result?
Exactly, yes.
We are being careful about South African investment in Nigeria. What is any investment in any country that was the blood of a citizen of that country? No investment of South Africa in Nigeria is worth the blood of any citizen of Nigeria in South Africa. And you are claiming over 100 citizens killed carelessly by people who claim they are rioting. Meanwhile, they had subtle support from the police. They had subtle support from the government of the land. And we are treating it with such levy. We must have to step out and make a statement. Enough is enough.
What is your take on the reciprocal violence that has occurred, although not very violently, I guess, towards South African companies in Nigeria? Like,
as far as I'm concerned, Nigerian citizens have not done anything. We've not done anything. If it had to be a reciprocal, at least we should be counting the number of South Africans that have been killed in Nigeria. How many of them died?
I think 0.
Destroy $1 billion investment. I don't count it as anything when it comes to the life of a human. No South African life is lost. No South African government is not running, South African enterprise is not running in Nigeria today. They are all moving on. But the truth of the matter is that Nigeria must make a strong statement to Zuma. I have said it here once, that Zuma is a mistake in governance. Such character is a mistake in governance.
He's not popular generally.
You could see it in every of his activities. Is it his recklessness? Anyway, the truth of the matter is, thank God, Zuma will come and end one day in South Africa. There will be an end to Zuma one day in South Africa. And we pray we'll have a new chapter in that country.
We will see. We hope this situation gets better, not worse. The international news media have been stating that Nigeria has had its longest recession in 25 years, or the deepest recession. Watch this short report from The Economist magazine television.
2 years ago, Nigeria's economy was revalued, and it was found to be the biggest economy on the continent. This week, Nigeria just released economic growth figures showing that in 2016, its economy contracted. This is the first year-long recession in 25 years. Nigeria is essentially an oil economy. The fact that the oil price has fallen by about half is central to this slump. Compounding the impact have been some fundamental economic policy mistakes committed by the president of the country, Muhammadu Buhari, who came in 2 years ago. He previously ruled the country in the mid-1980s as a military leader, and at that time he also faced a falling oil price and economic shock. Unfortunately, he's making the same mistakes today as he did then. Mr. Buhari's main economic policy has been trying to peg the Nigerian currency, the naira, to the US dollar. Maintaining this peg against the dollar means that its exports are just too expensive, so it can't compete on global markets. At the same time, its local manufacturers are not able to produce things cheaply enough to compete internally with the cheap imports that have been flooding the country. What's really interesting about this is that President Buhari is not even in the country at the moment during this economic crisis. He's been in London since more or less the middle of January. What started out ostensibly as a holiday now turns out to have been medical treatment. In the meantime, his vice president, Yemi Osinbajo, has stepped into the fray and is effectively running the country. The vice president has a much more progressive stance on the economy. He's allowed the currency to start easing. He's also embarked on some reforms aimed at encouraging investment and making it easier to do business in Nigeria. There is an uneasy calm at the moment. As long as Buhari is still getting medical treatment, and as long as his vice president is very competently running the country, everyone seems to be happy. Perhaps the best thing for the country right now might simply be for Mr. Buhari to take a long convalescence before returning.
Well, there we have it. A look at the Nigerian economy and the presence or absence of our president. Ferdinand, what do you say about this?
Well, our president is a human being. First and foremost, he's liable to, some weaknesses of the body or even sickness. And we must give him room to take care of his body. That is very, very, very simple. The problem is not his illness. The problem is management of his absence. I think this keeps reoccurring in Nigeria. I don't know when we will learn. I don't know how we will learn. The president is normal anywhere in the world. He's a human being. He's no spirit. He's bound to break down. He's bound to be treated. But how we manage the situation is what is horrible. Yes, Buhari did the right thing before he left. The problem we had during the Yaradua time didn't repeat itself this time around. The man handed over properly to his deputy to continue. But in this nation, we trivialize everything. People make moles out of nothing everywhere.
Indeed.
This man handed over properly. That is what the Constitution says. It is left for the vice president. What should have bothered us is whether the vice president is doing what he's supposed to do. If he's doing it, who cares? We pray for him to recover and return. That is the simple thing. That's my opinion as regards the sickness or no sickness or the absence or whatever about the president.
But the president is still making decisions, I would guess, through his vice president, or is the vice president making the decisions?
It's normal. Because we are talking about personality in Nigeria, not these institutions. Under normal circumstances, we should be talking about the institution. Government is about institution and not individuals. If there is any problem, Osinbajo should be held responsible. He was totally, the president handed over to him. Absolutely. So it is up to him to either use the power to better the lots of Nigerians and show us that he is a leader, or to show us that he's a puppet.
Well, as so far, he's been acting for how long? Almost 4 weeks,
2 months.
6 weeks,
Yes.
2 months.
Almost 2 months.
And how do you think he's performed so far?
Oh, of course, the government in power is performing creditably well. So far. Initially, we had this. You remember in one of our programs here, I told you that my fear is in this government, we are, of course, among the people that campaign for him seriously. Some of us were ostracized, some of us were called names. But my fear then was that this spirit of concalism may erode this government. What is it? It is our turn. We have conquered. It is now our turn to reap the benefit of conquering the rest. And these concalists are few people in the system. They don't have tribal limitation. They cut across the tribes. If your brother is in power, I go through you to reach to your brother. If my brother is in power, you go through me to reach my brother. It's a cycle. And they have crept into this government at a point. But you know, the absence of the president created a gap for them. Now they will have to start finding their way to the vice president, who is the acting president right now. The issue is, we are looking at a time when this government will look inwards to correct some certain things. There are square pegs on inside round holes. When you say on round hole, we say inside the round hole, put the correct personalities to do the correct jobs.
Well, that looks like we've almost come to the end. And whatever the system is being operated behind the scenes, whether Buhari is running the show or Osinbajo is running the show,
It's the government.
They're the governments, and
Thank
they
you.
seem to be doing something right in recently. So we hope this continues. Please, if you are on Facebook, you can find us on Liberty Global Reports, and you can watch this program, and you can also see some of the reports that we featured. And you can leave comments and keep us informed and let us know how we're doing. If we're doing a good job, let us know. If we're doing a bad job, let us know. And I'd like once again to thank Ferdinand for, after a long gap, of coming to the studio again. And we look forward to seeing you very soon.
Thank you, viewers.
So this is me, Arthur Brooks, from Liberty Global Reports, and all our crew here in the studio, wishing you a fantastic week ahead.